What's up, everybody? Joe White here, and today I'm going to talk about a couple things. One, first off, is going to be about The Rock and how dumb he is. Now, I know he's doing this in character. I know he's doing it all in character, but there has to be some shred of truth in this as to what he's talking about. I have to believe that he believes what he's saying a little bit in this. He goes on and tweets about how he is the biggest heel that the pro wrestling business has seen in the last 20 years. Now, although this is, it very well may be true, the problem with this is that it shits all over Roman Reigns. You know, this program, Meltzer and a lot of other people have said this too, and I totally agree with them. This program that they've gotten into with The Rock and Roman, Cody and Seth, it really hasn't elevated Seth a whole lot because what Drew McIntyre has been kind of saying to him is true. Why are you getting in the middle of this? And then what he's saying is true. Hey, if nobody stands up to the bloodline, they're coming after this title next. So it's kind of elevated Seth. It's definitely elevated Cody Rhodes. You can tell that by the simple fact that every time he is on, the ratings go up. And also, it's elevated The Rock, of course, because everybody loves The Rock. The Rock is awesome. The Rock is cutting good, edgy promos. But it's really, really, really hurt Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns has really just fallen to second banana to The Rock. Even though he's had The Rock come and say, oh, acknowledge me and all this and that, this statement by The Rock, even if it is in character, coming out and saying I'm the biggest heel in 20 years, don't you think that overshadows Roman? Well, what's Roman Reigns been for the last 4 years? They're totally putting the screws to Roman Reigns with this entire program. Now, I'm not usually one to defend Roman. The man has definitely improved since he's turned heel. I was not a fan of his babyface work at all. The man was just born to play a heel. He's had the most impressive title reign of the modern era since the Hogan Austin era, since the Attitude Era. But to sit there and say, have The Rock, who is supposed to be elevating this guy, come in and say that I'm better than him, I'm the biggest heel in 20 years, that totally just shits on Roman. Big time. And WWE really needs to get a handle on this guy. I know he's on the board, I know blah, 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 but if I'm Triple H, I'm going to Nick Khan, I'm going to Ari Emanuel myself, and I'm saying, look at what this guy's doing. Look at what this guy's doing. Can't you tell him to rein it in just a little bit? He's affecting business. I'm the biggest heel in 20 years. Well, what about Drew McIntyre? What about all the other heels on the roster that are not his family? What does that say about them? He's shitting all over the business. Anyway, that's my thought on that situation. That it's just it's totally totally crazy. Moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about here in this little quick video about Grand Theft Auto 6. This is coming from PushSquare.com. They put this out Friday, late Friday, saying that Rockstar Games, now this is coming, they got this from Kotaku. Rockstar Games could be forced to delay GTA 6 as far back as 2026 if production problems continue to mandate forcing remote workers to return to the developer's physical offices. A new Kotaku report says employees are struggling with the quote-unquote unwanted return to office mandate, which could invite crunch. Having been hired as remote staff members, the swift change quote unquote caught many by surprise and has led to frustration from staff who feel like they are being pushed out. Right now, the developer is still aiming to release GTA 6 in the spring of 2025 window, but Kotaku sources claim work on the game is now quote unquote falling behind, which could cause a delay to the end of the next year. Pushing the title back to 2026 is also on the table and is seen as an emergency option. Rockstar reportedly cites security and quality as the main reasons for mandating a return to in-person work from next month. So let me talk to you guys about remote work. I don't think they hired the entire development team as remote workers. I think these people live close to the office and were sent home during the pandemic. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Did they just hire a bunch of people who lived 50, 60 miles away from the office to work from home? I think this is a way of people getting back to normal. Look at what Twitter did. Twitter said, "Hey, no more remote workers. You got to work. You got to come back into the office." A lot of companies have done that since the pandemic. And let me tell you something else. You can still have work from home people doing crunch. That just because you work from home doesn't mean that they're not going to work you half to death to get this thing out there. You know, the people from GTA 6 O'Clock were talking about this. Dan Dawkins and James Jarvis were talking about this on their podcast this past week. It's a lot easier when everybody is in an office working together on something like this. Because you could holler at the guy and go, "Hey, Jim, come over here and take a look at this. What do you think of the render on this and the placement of this?" And Jim can walk from one cubicle to another. Instead of you having to work on a video and then get into an online session with this guy and have to worry about people hacking in, and it's a lot easier if you're there in person. It just is. And you can still have crunch working from home. I don't get the thing of, oh, in the office means crunch. No. I used to work from home remotely. I worked for a company called support.com in their Comcast home internet service tech support section. They had sometimes when I worked there for about a good portion of when I worked there, they had mandatory overtime. And if you didn't sign up for it, whatever block you wanted, you were required to work at least 4 hours of mandatory overtime a week for the last year and a half that I worked there. And if you didn't work it, they assigned it to you. Rockstar could do the same thing. They can monitor who's signed in and who's not to their program and who punches in and punches out on their time clocks. They can monitor who is doing what, especially if they work off of a company VPN where everybody, all the top brass, probably have access to everybody's computers and everybody's workstation while they're connected to that VPN. When I was when I was working for Comcast over there at support.com, they monitored almost every keystroke. My manager, my boss, could remote into my computer at any given time and see what I was doing. So this notion that, oh, we don't have crunch when we work from home is bullcrap. And people could say, well, they're just a little bit more comfortable working from home. They have their own fridge and their own bathroom, and that still may be true, but you're still required to be in that chair at that computer for as long as they tell you that you need to be there. It's no different. Now, unless this is a scenario where, if this is a scenario where they hired a bunch of people who do not work near their offices and they're telling them, hey, you got to now come into the office, then yes, I could see the problem. Hey, I live in another state and you're telling me I have to come into your office, but I don't think Rockstar's dumb enough to do that. They're probably telling people, hey, if you work on this game, now here's another scenario. Here, let's think about this. They could say, hey, if you live in a 35 to 50 mile radius of our offices, you have to come in. If you don't live within a certain amount of radius of our offices, well, then we're going to have to let you go. Then that could cause less employees. Then, yes, that could cause crunch. But I find it hard to believe that they just went out there and hired, just because of the pandemic, hired a bunch of people that worked far away from their offices. I don't think their development team, I don't think they fired everybody and then rehired a bunch of people. That's what I'm getting at. These are the same people that have worked there all along. And yes, so what? You got to come into the office now. Guess what? It's right back to the way things were. And guess what? You can have crunch at home and be required to be signed into your workstation at home just as good as you can be at the office. Crunch could be there no matter what, unless they've really downsized the workforce. Then they need to hire more people. As much money as they're going to make off this game and as much money as they've made off other games, they can afford to do it. Let me know what you think in the comments below about this. Am I right here? Am I wrong for thinking that, for siding with the big bad tech company? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and we'll see you down the road.